Hello, dear friends. My name is Dorothy, though most people refer to me as Dot. I am 73 years old and speaking to you today from my lovely home in Charleston, South Carolina, a home I effectively built with my own two hands, metaphorically speaking. Before we begin, I would like to know where you are tuning in from. Please drop a comment to share. It always warms my heart to see how far these stories reach. What I am about to share is not easy for me. There are moments when I still struggle to believe it occurred, but it did. Every single word of it. I share this with you because some of you may be experiencing something similar, or perhaps you are concerned about a loved one. Often, those closest to us are the ones we should observe most carefully. Allow me to take you back to where it all began. I have been a widow for 8 years. My husband, Tom, was the love of my life. Together, we built everything: our business, our home, our family. Tom owned a successful commercial real estate company, and I worked alongside him for 42 years. When he passed away, he left everything to me, just as we had always planned. The properties, the investments, the savings, all part of the life we constructed together. We have two children: Michael, our eldest at 47, who has always been ambitious and seeking the next big opportunity, and Lauren, who is 43 and married to a man named Brad for 6 years now. I must admit, I had reservations about Brad from the beginning, but I kept them to myself. Lauren seemed happy, and that was what mattered most to me. After Tom's death, I dedicated myself to managing our estate. I learned every detail about our investments, maintained the properties, and ensured everything ran smoothly. I was not merely a grieving widow waiting to fade away. I was active, sharp, and in complete control of my life. However, about a year ago, things began to change. It started small. Michael began visiting more frequently, which I initially appreciated. He would bring coffee, ask how I was doing, and offer assistance around the house. Then Lauren and Brad started visiting more often as well. Family dinners became a regular occurrence. Every Sunday, they would arrive, and we would enjoy lovely meals together. I thought I was blessed, and that my children were finally recognizing the importance of our time together. I was mistaken. The inquiries began casually. Michael would ask about the properties, the tenants, and the performance of various buildings. "Mom, are you sure old Mr. Patterson is still a reliable tenant? His rent checks have been late before, haven't they?" They had not been late once in 12 years, but Michael planted seeds of doubt. Lauren began to ask about my doctor's appointments, whether I was taking my medications, and if I had considered slowing down. I once caught a glimpse of a notebook she was keeping, pages filled with notes about our conversations, dates, and times, as if she were building a case against me. Brad, who had barely spoken to me in the first 5 years of knowing him, suddenly had opinions on everything. "Dorothy, no offense, but Gerald Hutchkins is rather old school. Have you thought about someone more modern?" He brought business cards for young attorneys he had researched, all eager but lacking Gerald's 40 years of experience. Then came the suggestions. Wouldn't it be easier if Michael managed the properties? Wouldn't I feel better if Lauren had access to my medical records, just in case? Shouldn't I consider updating my will now that Tom was gone? Each time I smiled and assured them that I had everything under control, because I did. I had successfully managed a multi-million-dollar portfolio for 8 years and had increased its value by 32%. Yet they continued to push. Michael began bringing documents for me to sign. The first was a simple authorization for the bank, which would have granted him full access to view accounts, make transfers, and authorize withdrawals. I declined. The second time, he presented papers to add him as a co-owner on the property deeds, which would have conferred equal ownership immediately. I refused again. Each time I declined, I saw frustration flash across his face, quickly masked by concern. "Mom, you're being paranoid. I'm just trying to help." Lauren began discussing assisted living communities, leaving brochures on my kitchen counter, glossy pamphlets for facilities costing between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. My house was worth $1.8 million. The mathematics was straightforward. Then, small items began to disappear. My mother's pearl necklace vanished from my jewelry box. When I inquired about it, Lauren feigned surprise. "Mom, are you sure you didn't move it? Maybe put it somewhere safe and forgot." I had not forgotten. That necklace had been in the same place for 20 years. Consequently, I changed the locks, moved my jewelry to a bank vault, and began storing important documents in Gerald's office, paying closer attention to everything they said and did. Then came Thanksgiving. I spent 2 days preparing the perfect meal: turkey, stuffing, and 3 kinds of pie, all of Tom's favorites, using recipes we had perfected over the years. The dining room looked beautiful, adorned with my grandmother's china and the crystal glasses we received as wedding gifts 50 years ago. Everyone arrived around 2 p.m. Michael came with his wife, Jennifer, while Lauren and Brad entered with wine and smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. We ate, talked, and laughed. It felt almost normal. After dinner, as I began to clear the plates, Jennifer offered to help, but I declined, saying, "You all relax. I'll take these to the kitchen and start on coffee." As I loaded my arms with dishes and walked toward the kitchen, I overheard Lauren's voice, low and serious. "Mom's getting worse. Did you see her today? She forgot what time we were coming." My hands froze in the soapy water. I hadn't forgotten. They had arrived 15 minutes early. "She's definitely slipping," I heard Brad say. "One day he's fine, the next he's forgetting his own address." I dried my hands slowly and quietly. "We need to move faster." Michael's voice followed. "I've been trying to get her to sign the power of attorney for months, but she keeps reading the fine print." "It's like she doesn't trust us because she's paranoid," Lauren added. "That's part of the decline. She thinks everyone's after her money. Last week she accused me of taking Mother's pearl necklace." "You did," I thought, gripping the edge of the sink. "The key is documentation," Brad continued. "My lawyer says we need at least 6 documented incidents of memory loss or confusion. Has she made any questionable transactions?" "Not that I can find," Michael replied, frustrated. "Her accounts are in better shape than when Dad was alive. Every property is performing well. Maintenance is up to date. She's even making smarter investments than our father did." "Then we need to create incidents," Brad said flatly. "Document times when she seems confused. Keep records of conversations where she contradicts herself. Build a pattern." "Isn't that? Can we do that?" Jennifer asked hesitantly. "It's for her own good," Michael asserted sharply. "She's 73. She's not going to be competent forever. We're just accelerating an inevitable process." "She's old," Brad added. "Just tolerate her until we can take over. Once we have control of the estate, we can make the real decisions. That Charleston property alone could net us $2 million if we sell it to developers, and the investment portfolio. We could liquidate half of it and still have plenty left over." My breath caught. Tom and I had refused to sell that property for 30 years. It was a historic building we had restored, and the developers wanted to demolish it. Michael knew how much that building meant to us. "So what's the plan?" Jennifer asked. "She won't sign anything. How do we get around that?" "We might need to pursue guardianship," Lauren suggested casually. "Dr. Morrison said if we can document enough incidents, we could petition the court. He's willing to provide medical testimony about her declining cognitive function." Dr. Morrison, my own doctor who had told me last month that I was in excellent health. They had gotten to him as well. "How long will the process take?" Brad inquired. 6 months, maybe less if we're aggressive," Michael replied. "We file the petition, present our documentation, and get Dr. Morrison's testimony. Once guardianship is granted, we have full control. She can't buy, sell, or transfer anything without our approval, and she can't change her will," Lauren added. "Once we have guardianship, her estate planning is locked in place." "Unless we change it," Brad said. "As her guardians, we could petition the court to amend her estate plan, moving her to assisted living and liquidating assets to pay for her care." "What about her current will?" Jennifer asked. "She won't show us," Lauren replied bitterly. "But I'm assuming it's split equally between Michael and me. I can't imagine she'd cut us out." "Even if she tries to, once we have guardianship, we can challenge it," Brad assured her. "We'd argue she wasn't of sound mind. The court would likely revert to the previous will." "How long?" Brad pressed again. "We've got our own financial commitments to consider." "Call it 8 months total," Michael said. "We just need to be patient. Keep visiting. Keep documenting. Keep pushing. She can't hold out forever." "She's 73, Lauren added coldly. It's not like she's going to live another 20 years. We just need to wait. There was a murmur of agreement around the table. Here's what we do, Michael said, taking charge. We keep up the Sunday dinners. Lauren, you keep pushing the assisted living angle. I'll keep trying to get her to sign financial documents. Brad, you work on Dr. Morrison. Everyone document everything. Dates, times, conversations, anything that could support our case. What if she figures it out? Jennifer asked quietly. Michael laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. She won't. She's convinced we're devoted children. Besides, even if she suspects something, what's she going to do? She's alone. We're all she has. I stood in that kitchen, gripping the edge of the sink, listening to my children discuss me as if I were already dead, an inconvenience, an obstacle between them and their inheritance. They were not waiting for me to die naturally. They were planning to have me declared incompetent to seize everything while I was still alive. The most disheartening part was their lack of sadness, regret, guilt, or love, just cold calculation and greed. I do not know how long I stood there, long enough for my coffee to grow cold, long enough for my hands to stop shaking, long enough for something inside me to harden. When I returned to the dining room with the coffee tray, I said nothing about what I had overheard. I smiled, poured coffee, served pie, laughed at Michael's jokes, and listened to Lauren discuss her latest yoga class. I was the ideal mother, the perfect hostess, the grateful old woman, fortunate to have such caring children. They had no idea I had been standing right behind them, nor did they comprehend what was coming. That night, after everyone left, I could not sleep. I sat in Tom's study, my study now, and made lists. I reviewed documents and contacted people in different time zones who were still awake. By sunrise, I knew precisely what I needed to do. On Monday morning, I called my attorney, Gerald Hutchkins, not the family attorney, but my personal attorney, the one I had kept separate from everything else. Tom had insisted I have him, just in case, he said, and I had thought he was being paranoid. Now I understood. He had known. Gerald, I said when he answered, I need to see you today. It's urgent. I could hear the concern in his voice. Dorothy, what's wrong? I need to restructure everything, all of it, and I need it done before anyone knows what's happening. There was a pause. Gerald had practiced law for 40 years. He had heard that tone before. I'll clear my schedule. Come in at 2. I spent that morning gathering documents. Bank statements, property deeds, investment portfolios, insurance policies, everything. I filled 2 briefcases with paperwork and drove to Gerald's office in downtown Charleston. His secretary, Martha, took one look at me in the briefcases and immediately ushered me into his office. Gerald stood when I entered, his expression serious. Tell me what's happening, he said. So I did. I recounted everything. The increasing pressure, the missing jewelry, Thanksgiving dinner, and overhearing my children plotting. I told him about Dr. Morrison and their 6-month timeline for guardianship. Gerald's expression grew graver with every word. I've seen this before, he finally said, more often than anyone wants to believe. Adult children who view their aging parents as assets to be managed rather than people to be loved. Dorothy, you're in a race against time. If they file for guardianship before you take action, everything becomes exponentially more difficult. What are my options? I asked. Gerald opened his laptop and pulled up a legal pad. We create an irrevocable trust. You transfer all your assets into it, with you as the lifetime beneficiary. You retain complete control, but legally, you no longer own the assets. The trust does. Even if someone obtains guardianship over you personally, they cannot access the trust assets. And my children, Gerald looked at me directly. That's your decision. You can name them as beneficiaries for after you pass, with conditions, or exclude them entirely. You can also include provisions that automatically disinherit anyone who attempts to declare you incompetent. I recalled Michael's voice. She's definitely slipping. Lauren discussing guardianship. Brad calculating property values at my dinner table. I want them excluded, I stated firmly. Gerald nodded and began making notes. Here's what we're going to do. We'll create what's called a fortress trust with multiple layers of legal protection. First, the irrevocable trust itself. Second, a poison pill provision. If anyone contests the trust or attempts to have you declared incompetent, every asset goes to charity. Third, independent medical evaluations proving your competency. 3 physicians with no connection to your family will conduct comprehensive evaluations. How long will this take? I asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. We need to draft the documents properly, arrange the medical evaluations, and execute all the transfers. But Dorothy, once we file this with the probate court, it's done. You need to be absolutely certain. I did not hesitate. I'm certain. Then we start today. If you are watching this and have been moved by my story, I would like to ask you for a favor. Please hit that subscribe button. It helps me share these stories with more people who may need to hear them. And believe me, what comes next is worth seeing through to the end. Gerald nodded. He did not attempt to dissuade me or suggest I was being rash or emotional. He simply began making notes. We worked for 6 hours that day. Gerald brought in his paralegal, Stephanie, and his estate planning specialist, Marcus. They drafted documents, reviewed holdings, and structured the trust with layers of protection. Every property, every account, every investment went into the Dorothy Ann Morrison Trust, with me as the sole trustee and lifetime beneficiary. The trust named several beneficiaries to receive distributions after my death. The women's shelter where I volunteered, the scholarship fund Tom and I had established years ago, and the animal rescue that had given me my beloved dog, Murphy. These were organizations that had meant something to us, causes we believed in. Michael's name was not included, nor was Lauren's. But we did not stop there. Gerald added what he termed poison pill provisions. If anyone contested the trust or attempted to have me declared incompetent, the trust would be automatically amended to donate my entire estate to charity. If anyone challenged my mental capacity to create the trust, an independent medical panel would convene to evaluate me and provide testimony. We scheduled that evaluation for the following week. 3 independent physicians spent hours with me. They tested my memory, reasoning, and decision-making capacity, reviewing my medical records and financial management history. All 3 concluded the same thing. I was of sound mind and body, fully capable of managing my own affairs. Those reports were sealed and attached to the trust documents. It took 2 weeks to finalize everything. 2 weeks of meetings, signatures, notarizations, and transfers. During that time, Michael called 3 times to check on me, while Lauren stopped by twice with more assisted living brochures. I smiled through all of it, playing my part perfectly. The documents were filed with the probate court on a Friday afternoon. By law, the trust was now irrevocable. Nothing could change it without my explicit consent. Even if I wanted to add someone back in, the process would require court approval and another competency evaluation. My children were locked out. Now came the difficult part, waiting for them to discover what I had done. I did not have to wait long. The following Monday, Michael called. His voice was tight, controlled, and tinged with an edge I had never heard before. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something. Can I come over?" "Of course, sweetheart. Is everything all right? We'll discuss it when I get there." He hung up without saying goodbye. He arrived 30 minutes later with Lauren and Brad. Jennifer was not with them this time. Perhaps she had reconsidered the entire plan. They did not bring wine or smiles, nor did they embrace me at the door. They entered my living room as if it were a business meeting, as if my house were somehow now their territory. Michael held a folder, his knuckles white from gripping it too tightly. "Mom, we need to talk about your finances." I settled into Tom's chair, my chair now, and folded my hands in my lap. "What about them, dear?" "We've been contacted by your bank. Apparently, you've made some significant changes to your accounts, major transfers. They wanted to verify with us that you weren't being scammed or making decisions under duress." Of course, the bank had called them. They had been listed as emergency contacts for years, a safety measure Tom and I had put in place when the children were still trustworthy. When those massive transfers began occurring, moving millions of dollars into new accounts, the bank flagged it and reached out to verify. Michael likely thought he had struck gold, proof that I was either being scammed or making poor decisions, ammunition for his guardianship petition. "Oh, that," I said pleasantly, keeping my voice light. "Yes, I did some restructuring. Just standard estate planning, really." "Mom," Lauren said, sitting across from me, her voice dripping with feigned patience I now recognized. "This isn't standard anything. You moved everything, all of it. multiple properties, investment accounts, savings, everything. Do you understand what you've done? I understand perfectly, sweetheart. I created an irrevocable trust to protect my assets. Brad leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. Protected from what, exactly? From us? We're your family, Dorothy. We're the people who care about you. I looked at him for a long moment. This man who had sat at my table on Thanksgiving, discussing my properties as commodities to be liquidated, who had calculated my worth down to the last dollar and found it acceptable, who had said, "She's old. Just tolerate her." "Yes," I replied evenly. "Protected from you." The room fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. Michael's face flushed red, starting at his neck and climbing to his hairline. "Mom, I don't know what you think you heard." "What I heard." I leaned forward slightly, my voice calm but laced with steel. "Michael, I heard everything. Thanksgiving Day, while I was in the kitchen with my hands in soapy dishwater, I heard every single word that came out of your mouths in my dining room. Would you like me to be specific?" Lauren's face turned white. "Mom, you don't understand." "Concerned?" I interrupted. "Let me tell you what I heard, Lauren. I heard you say I'm getting worse. I heard you claim I forgot what time you were coming to Thanksgiving dinner when, in fact, you arrived 15 minutes early and I was still cooking. I heard you discuss my supposed memory problems that don't exist. I heard you admit you're keeping a notebook documenting false incidents to build a case against me." "That's not," she began, but I held up my hand. "I heard you talk about guardianship proceedings. I heard you say Dr. Morrison is willing to provide testimony about my declining cognitive function when he told me just last month that I'm in excellent health. I heard you plan to petition the court within 6 months. I heard you discuss how once you have guardianship, I can't change my will. I heard you talk about moving me to assisted living and liquidating assets to free up capital. Should I continue?" Michael stood up, his voice rising. "We were trying to protect you. You're 73 years old. You're isolated. You're making financial decisions that—" "What?" I cut in sharply. "That increased the value of this estate by 32%. That maintained every property in perfect condition. That kept every tenant satisfied and every investment performing above market averages. Exactly which decisions concern you, Michael? The successful ones?" "You're being paranoid," Brad said, though his voice lacked conviction. "This is exactly the kind of reaction that shows—" "That shows what?" I stood up too. I may not be tall, but in that moment I felt 10 feet high. "That shows I'm not the confused old woman you were counting on. That shows I'm capable of protecting myself." "Yes, Brad, it absolutely does show that." "This is ridiculous," Brad said, standing as well, his professional mask slipping. "You're making a massive mistake based on a conversation you misunderstood. You're destroying your family over nothing." I walked to Tom's desk and pulled out a folder, one of several I had prepared. "I was evaluated by 3 independent physicians 2 weeks ago, not Dr. Morrison, since I heard you'd compromised him. 3 board-certified physicians with no connection to any of you. All 3 found me to be of sound mind and body, fully capable of managing my affairs. They tested my memory, my reasoning, my decision-making capacity. I scored in the 95th percentile for my age group. Would you like to read the summaries?" I handed the folder to Brad. He opened it with shaking hands, scanned the first page, and I watched the color drain from his face. "The trust is irrevocable," I continued, my voice steady and clear. "It's structured to provide for all my needs during my lifetime with distributions to various charitable organizations after my death. None of you are named as beneficiaries. If any of you attempt to contest it or have me declared incompetent, the entire estate goes to charity immediately. Every penny. The trust documents include your Thanksgiving conversation, transcribed from memory and verified by my attorneys. It includes details of every document you tried to get me to sign, every assisted living brochure you left on my counter, every manipulation attempt over the last year." "You can't do this," Lauren said, her voice now shrill and her carefully crafted facade crumbling. "Your father wouldn't have wanted this. He left everything to you so you could take care of us." I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of these people. "Your father left everything to me because we built it together, because he trusted me to manage it wisely, because he believed I would make good decisions. And I have. This is a good decision, Lauren. Your father loved you both more than life itself. He sacrificed everything to give you opportunities he never had. He worked 70-hour weeks so you could have private schools, summer camps, and a college education without debt. And this, my voice broke slightly, is how you honor his memory? By plotting to steal from me? By treating me like I'm already dead? We're your children, Michael shouted, losing all composure. You deserve nothing, I interjected, my voice cracking like thunder, surprising even myself. Children who love their parents don't plot against them. They don't lie. They don't manipulate. They don't scheme. They don't conspire with doctors to build false medical records. They don't plan to demolish their father's historic building for condominium development. You don't deserve a single penny of what your father and I built, because you've shown me exactly what you would do with it. You'd squander it, fight over it, use it to justify the fact that you betrayed your own mother. The room fell silent, save for my heavy breathing and Lauren's poorly suppressed sob. Michael attempted one last time, his voice shaking. Mom, we made mistakes. We said things we shouldn't have. But you can't throw away your whole family because of one bad conversation. We're still your children. That has to count for something. I looked at him, really looked at him, and tried to find the little boy who used to bring me dandelions from the backyard, who would curl up next to me on the couch for bedtime stories. I could not find him. That child was gone, replaced by this stranger in an expensive suit who had tried to steal my life. One bad conversation, I said quietly. Michael, this wasn't one bad conversation. This was a conspiracy that lasted a year. This was systematic manipulation, documented lies, corruption of medical professionals, and detailed plans to have me declared incompetent and stripped of my rights. You had a timeline, you had strategies, you coordinated your efforts. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of poor judgment. This was calculated theft. And the only reason you didn't succeed is that I happened to overhear you. If I hadn't been standing in that kitchen, you'd still be executing your plan right now, wouldn't you? He did not answer. He did not have to. The truth was written all over his face. Lauren began to cry, not real tears, but the practiced kind, the manipulative kind. Please, Mom, we made a mistake. We weren't thinking clearly. You have to forgive us. I don't have to do anything, I replied. You made your choice when you sat at my table and plotted against me. You made your choice when you contacted my doctor to help you build a case. You made your choice when you decided I was merely an obstacle between you and your inheritance. Mom, please, Michael reached for my hand. I pulled away. Don't touch me and don't come back to this house. Any of you. You're not welcome here anymore. You're making a mistake, Brad said coldly. Now we'll fight this. We'll prove you're incompetent. Try it, I said. My attorneys are already prepared for that. Every attempt you make will be documented, and every failed attempt will be used as evidence of harassment. You can spend your money on lawyers if you wish, but you won't win. The trust is airtight. They left. Lauren was still crying her fake tears. Michael was red-faced and furious. Brad looked like he was calculating his next move. I closed the door behind them and locked it. Then I walked to Tom's chair, sat down, and allowed myself to shake. The calls began that evening. Michael called 6 times, leaving increasingly angry voicemails. Lauren called, crying and begging, promising it was all a misunderstanding. Brad sent text messages threatening legal action. I blocked all their numbers. The next day, Jennifer called, trying to play mediator. Dorothy, please, Michael is devastated. He never meant to hurt you. Tell Michael, I said calmly, that actions have consequences. Tell him his father would be ashamed of him. Tell him not to contact me again. I hung up. The following week, I received a letter from an attorney representing Michael and Lauren. It threatened to contest the trust, suggested I was unduly influenced, and hinted at legal action for elder abuse against my attorneys. Gerald laughed when he read it. This is nothing. They're grasping at straws. The trust is solid, Dorothy. They can't touch it. He was correct. Every legal challenge they attempted was dismissed. The judges saw through their claims immediately. When they sought to have me evaluated by their own doctors, the court refused. I had already been evaluated by independent physicians who found nothing wrong. They attempted to contact the charities named in my trust, suggesting I was being scammed. The charity's attorneys contacted Gerald, who provided documentation showing the trust had been my idea, carefully planned and legally sound. 3 months later, they gave up. The calls ceased, the letters stopped. They disappeared from my life as completely as if they had never existed. Some may think I should feel sadness about that. Perhaps I should mourn the loss of my children, grieve for the family that no longer exists. But here's what I actually feel: free. For the first time in a year, I can breathe without wondering who is plotting behind my back. I can make decisions without second-guessing every conversation. I can live in my home without feeling like I am being encircled by predators. I still volunteer at the women's shelter twice a week. I continue managing my properties, which are thriving. I travel now. Last month, I went to Italy, something I had always dreamed of doing. I spend time with genuine friends, people who care about me for who I am, not what I own. Murphy, my golden retriever, is sleeping at my feet as I share this story. He is better company than my children ever were. And you know what else? I am writing a book. My attorney suggested it, a memoir about elder financial abuse and how to protect yourself. It will detail everything that happened, with names changed, of course, to help others recognize the warning signs before it is too late. So that is my story. That is what transpired when I heard my family say, "She's old, just tolerate her until we take over." They did not know I was standing right behind them. But more importantly, they did not know who they were dealing with. I am Dorothy Morrison. I am 73 years old. I built a life with my husband. I raised a family. I managed a multi-million-dollar estate. And when my own children attempted to take it all from me, I outmaneuvered them at every turn. I am not just some old woman to be tolerated. I am not an obstacle to be overcome. I am not incompetent, confused, or easy to manipulate. I am exactly who I have always been: strong, capable, and unwilling to be anyone's victim. And I will live exactly as long as I choose. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who may be facing a similar situation. Trust your instincts, protect yourself, and never let anyone make you feel less than you are simply because you have aged. This is Dot from Charleston signing off. Stay strong, my friends. Please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. With love and respect.